Hi, my name is Jackie Pucci. Welcome to AgriBusiness Global Report, where we bring you interviews with executives and experts working in agrochemical, biological, and plant health industries. Today, I'm talking with Livio Tedeschi, president of BASF's Agricultural Solutions division. He's based in Limburgerhof, Germany. We're going to talk about some of the biggest challenges facing agriculture in the coming years and BASF's approach to them. Livio, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jackie. More than a big pleasure to talk about agriculture, challenges, and what the future holds in for us.
Thanks. So I was reading about drought in Italy, your home country, and this past year was very severe in 2022. And I was also having a conversation recently with an executive at an American company who was saying that he had never seen drought as prevalent of a theme as in his entire career as he sees it today. I was wondering if you can comment on how BASF is helping farmers address the challenge of drought.
And I would say, you mentioned Italy, my home country. It is drought, but there's also a lot of floods in the fall and in the winter season. So actually, it's a combination of much higher weather volatility that we have ever experienced in the past. And I think we are, as a BASF, we are tackling that in two ways. First of all, water management and resource management becomes more and more prevalent. And we have started a series of projects also working with companies delivering irrigation system and micro irrigations in order to make sure that we can build a holistic support system for crops, looking at seeds, looking at crop protection, but also resources like water, and how we can make sure that we can create an element of stability under weather conditions which are becoming much more unpredictable. But we're also working to help farmers not only from a water management point of view. Also, we have introduced in the development of our innovations the element of water much more prominently. So we are looking at seed varieties with higher tolerance to drought, but we are also looking at chemicals which can be applied with a much wider window of applications. So that no matter what conditions are, you do not need to get that one day of perfect weather conditions in order to have your fungicide application or insecticide application whenever needed, but you can even have a wider window due to protective activity and curative activities of fungicide, for example, or have a formulation which allows for much more flexibility. So it is a topic which goes into our entire development philosophy, and we don't want to have a debate on climate change, but what we know is farmers all over the world have to deal with much more volatile weather condition, and we want to support them with any part of our innovation pipeline.
And going off that, I know that BASF also has the smart spraying solution aimed at reducing pesticide volumes, launching, I think in the next year, North America, Brazil and Europe, right?
Yes.
And then I know that, the farm to fork strategy is very big in Europe, and that part of that is having chemical pesticide use by 2030. So that calls attention to the increased role of biologicals, I'd imagine, but I was wondering if you could also give examples of how you approach this. And as a European, what is your perspective too on this farm to fork strategy?
The farm to fork is a vision which I would fully support. So transform agriculture, make it more sustainable. By the way, this is not something which is starting now with the farm to fork strategy. We have been operating a network of sustainable farms for over 20 years. So this topic is very big in our company dealing with innovation and continuous transformation of agriculture. Now, what the farm to fork wants to do is to change the way agriculture is run. But I think one big issue is that the focus is mainly on reducing technologies currently available to farmers. So the farm to fork is aiming to achieve a reduction in fertilizer, a reduction in chemical crop protection, volume and risk combined, and an increase in area dedicated to organic farming. And one of the main worries which have been raised by multiple universities, also the US Department of Agriculture, is if all those measures will come to place, then there will be an inevitable loss of productivity. And this is a big worry because in times where food security is a very big topic, and the war in Ukraine has even more made evident how important it is to secure food availability, then a loss of productivity cannot be part of an innovative strategy. So what we're trying to do as a company is to exactly realize that vision of an agriculture which is having a lower environmental footprint, is lowering CO2 emissions, but doing in a way which is accelerating the introduction of new technologies rather than just eliminating whatever tools farmers have got at their disposal. And one example you mentioned that is smart sprayers. So going back to the Farm to Fork, but also similar regulations in North America, like the Endangered Species Act, got an element of, let's have an agriculture which is more in sync with the environment, and a common theme, and the topic of carbon emissions from agriculture and feedstock is very, very prominent these days. So what we want to do is, again, speed up the introduction of new technologies. One of those are smart sprayers. What is that? So if we want to optimize the use of chemical crop protection without losing in productivity and yield, the way to do that is to apply crop protection product at the concentration needed where you have a certain problem. So our system allows to have a rapid recognition for weed or disease, and distinguish, for example, weed from crops, and then apply the right concentration and the right combination of herbicides to deal with that single weed in that particular spot. So in this way, you can effectively optimize the use of herbicide without losing on yield, which would happen if we would just reduce the herbicide rate and apply uniformly on a hectare basis. And in general, we are really active in the debate with authorities, regulators, political stakeholders, and industry to really press, first of all, for the formalization of a regulatory framework, pulling and incentivizing the development and adoption of new technologies, and really move away from the focus only on elimination, because this is not what is going to help farmers, not what is going to make them competitive on the global market, considering that you cannot have in a system which is so globally interconnected, one region taking a completely different direction than all the others.
So are you optimistic that by 2030, productivity will maintain the current level or even expand then?
So I'm very optimistic that in 2030, we will see quite a lot of change in agriculture. So our smart spray technology is already reality now, and we are increasing the number of collaboration to have it on the market from the next days. So from now to 10 years in the future, I see a big adoption in the area. I see a much more prominent role of digitalization in the support of multiple activities on farm, not only application of crop protection, but support for seeding, choice of seed, fertilization, but recording and tracking of all farm operation. So I see data, use of data, and taking decision based on data become much more prominent in the future. And when it comes to use of chemical crop protection or biological crop protection, I see a need to really look at whatever tools are available to farmers and use them whenever needed, because in the end is all about yield, preserving yield, and making sure we lower our CO2 footprint, and we maintain a high level of biodiversity. So sometimes you have got specific diseases which have got their natural treatment with a biological product, and a system which takes into account the best of the tools available in the market is what's going to make agriculture successful in the future.
Okay, great. So even with high commodity prices, inflation is quite a big topic right now. I know higher prices were named as a major factor in BSF's increased ag revenue in Q3. Are these prices sustainable to allow farmers to continue doing their jobs? And how does it change your approach heading into 2023?
I think this is an approach which I would say is not only BASF, you're seen in the entire industry. And I think it's very much linked. In the end, we want to support farmers, and the profit farmer makes is what is driving the entire industry. What we've seen this year is that we had a spike in commodity prices, also triggered or mainly triggered by the war in Ukraine and the lack of export of cereals and oilseeds has triggered a very big fear that those commodities will become short.
Mm-hmm.
It's has driven prices very high, and it has resulted in a higher farm profitability for most of regions and commodity price combinations. Now, on the other side, when you look at the industry, our cost structure has also suffered a lot because we suffered from higher inflation, higher cost of energy and raw material, higher transportation cost. So what we've done is simply to pass on, not even all, but parts of that cost increase onto the customer base. And this has been needed in order to continue to deliver innovation, quality of product and service, which has experienced a big increase in price. Now, looking at next year, we see that the rising trend in inflation, labor cost, and also energy and raw materials is going to be high. And then we'll have to deal with that and share the burden as well with farmers, as long as profitability will allow to have a fair distribution on cost and gains in the industry.
Okay. Can you talk about supply chain from BSF's perspective in this post-COVID era, what you guys have learned, and how has it changed the way you do business?
I think the last 3 years have been a revolution in the way we had to deal with supply chain. We've experienced every possible trouble and issue, from lack of truck drivers, lack of containers, and lack of raw materials. Some of those caused by the general tension and bottlenecks in the global supply chain system, but also partly caused by weather conditions. We had extreme low temperatures in the Americas, which have caused problems in some of the production plants. We had floods, we had hurricanes. So I would say disruption from every angle. Now, I think one important learning is we used to have a system which was very much focused on minimizing cost of production of our active ingredients and try to concentrate our production in certain regions and then ship all over the world finished products. Now it has become apparent that if you want to be close to customer, flexible, and react to variation of demand very rapidly, you really need to have more localized production. And this idea of driving costs down with a very central production steering has met its limitation with the multiple challenges in the global logistics system. So what we have done is increase our formulation capacity, particularly close to the major countries. And then we had very strong structures in Europe and North America. We have increased our presence in Asia with new formulation sites. One opened very recently in Singapore, in China. And with that, we will be able to minimize the lead times in the growing regions, be able to respond very quickly to variations on demand locally, and then continue to have the best possible service to our customers, because I think in the end, everybody has experienced constrained systems, not only suppliers, distributors, but ultimately farmers.
From your perspective, how would you like to see BASF growers and the entire value chain, for that matter, work to promote the good work agriculture is doing versus all the negatives that are often picked up by the mainstream media and just the view of agriculture in Europe and also in the US?
I want to go back to a discussion I had with some growers recently, and I was very struck by one who told me, farmers used to be heroes because we're responsible for making food secure and available and affordable. And then sometimes we are treated like enemies nowadays because of farming practices. And then I think I see this as one of the biggest challenges of agriculture, to return dignity to the farmer profession, and don't overlook the sense of responsibility which farmers have, because in the end, a lot of farms are passed on to next generations and have been passed on for years or centuries. So the main interest is to keep the soil fertile for years and years. So to run farm operation in full respect with the environment and ensuring a really durable activity over the years. And in order to do this, that you can only do it in the most respectful way, using products only when needed, and avoiding any practices which are going to keep short-term results, but in the end turning into a long-term damage. So no farmer would ever do that. And I think one battle we are running together with farmers is really to promote safe use of, for example, chemical products. And a lot of the events which are created sometimes an opinion in society are related to incorrect use of products, off-label uses, or use of counterfeit products. So we put an enormous effort in training, in running training programs so that the label can be properly applied. And in the end, regulatory authorities approve products for safe use. So if you use according to the direction and label, there's no harm arising for the crops, for the environment, and for the consumers. And this is a topic which is a little bit missing in agriculture, and we are engaging enormously as an industry, as a company, and together with our farmers to maintain very, very high standard of use.
You mentioned counterfeiting. Is that problem that has become worse in recent years? I haven't heard a lot about it recently.
I think it's a problem which is always connected with incidents in agriculture, and incidents which are counterfeit flasks being indicating a certain product which contain another one, or a wrong concentration of product or mixes. So I think it's a product which, depending on the country, might have a very, very high level of share in the market. I think if the perception from your side is that the problem has become lower, it's perhaps also technology to reveal counterfeit products have become better, and then most of the company have put system in place to really ensure traceability of products, and hence reveal counterfeit much more rapidly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in closing, what do you see as the most exciting developments in agriculture right now, or anything surprising from BASF or outside the company?
I've been working in agriculture for 19 years now, and I'm a scientist, or used to be a scientist. I'm now managing business, and most of my life has been spent as a scientist in developing new innovations and new active ingredients. But I see that the level of transformation we are seeing in the market now is absolutely unprecedented. So the biggest challenge and the most appealing challenge is being able to shape agriculture of the future in a way that has never been like it is today. And when I see that farmers they have the need to not only maintain soil fertility, produce high yields, but also diminish their CO2 emissions, this is not something you can do with a single product. You need to have a holistic approach to your farm and start from what kind of seed technology, fertilization, what data you use. And this really breaks all barriers of linking yourself to one technology only, and unleashes a world where collaborations across companies and technologies will result in providing the biggest holistic service to farmers. And this is extremely exciting from a business point of view because it allows you to combine high innovation and high quality of innovation with a lot of partners in the market and be the one who is shaping how agriculture will look like in the future. So there couldn't be a more exciting time to work in agriculture. And I really hope that in the end, we will return with a strong image of farmers, an appreciation for the service they bring, and also a big quantum leap in making agriculture more sustainable and more compatible with CO2 requirements and having a lower impact on climate change.
Great. Thank you so much, Livio, for joining me. I really appreciate this. Wish you a happy holiday, happy New Year.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Same to you, and it's been a pleasure.